It's time to unfreeze some prehistoric zombies, my fellow ice cubes, because we are moving to the Frostbite Caves. A world of delicious ice stones and hot peppers is waiting for us. It is the first world of our team adventure and yet another hope to find Dave's Taco. Today we will fight against the extinct Dodo birds and melt some frozen shrooms. Without further ado, let's explore the frozen wastes of the prehistory. Brr, it's colder than a polar bear eating an ice pop. Indeed, it appears we have arrived in the Frostbite Caves. We have traveled so far back in history, so we have arrived in prehistory. Sounds reasonable. So now our mushrooms have to adapt to a new reality, where cold wines are normal and wedges like Johnny can be covered in ice. So that's how we started the first day of the Frostbite Caves. Similar to a few previous worlds, we played it with only mushrooms to show the local zombies who is the real boss of the lone. Thanks to a few pre-planted walnuts, dealing with tough zombies like bucketheads became much easier. And just don't forget that the mushroom is an ultimate weapon in the right hands. Don't look now, Penny, but those plants have a bad case of a freezer burn. It's the frozen wines from this time period. They have immobilized the plants. Wait, so that's how we get the frozen wedges? Does that mean that they are hiding our taco somewhere around here? Just don't tell that to Crazy Dave. He will become a normal person after that. On day 2, I found the best and the most efficient way to deal with frozen wedges. The only thing you need is a hungry zombie and a magical hypno shroom. After feeding our prehistoric friend with such a delicious mushroom, he becomes addicted to eating ice blocks. It also allowed me to free up some time to plant a couple of spore shrooms, which were trying to save Johnny's from being eaten. Unfortunately, not a single walnut made it to the end, but we will always remember the heroes of the shroom expansion. Not a single walnut will be forgotten. Day 3 was the conveyor belt level, which didn't include any mushrooms, so let me tell you an interesting fact about the woolly mammoth. Did you know that the last population of these animals became extinct only 4,000 years ago? To provide a comparison, they were still alive during the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, meaning that it happened not so far ago. They lived on a tiny island near the Russian Far East for another 6,000 years after the disappearance of the main population, which is really insane, considering the harsh climate and the small size of the island. Day 4 was beaten with the help of an overpowered ugly shroom. It's so cheap and good simultaneously that it's hard not to spam it all over the lawn. With such a powerful plant food ability, it leaves no chances to 80% of the mushrooms we've got today. Should we call it an ugly killing machine? Because it is the only description I can give it. I'm starting to get cold feet about this place. Also, my feet are getting really cold. It's a cold spring this year in my country, so my feet are cold as well, Crazy Dave. Day 5 was yet another conveyor belt level, and it didn't include any mushrooms, so I suggest you to skip it. On day 6, we had a unique chance to spam a ton of spore shrooms. Everything was going pretty fine before we passed the first wave, as the cold wine froze all the mushrooms I planted before. The situation was catastrophic, which means that I had to find an unusual solution for such a specific problem. I didn't find anything better than planting a super magical shroom, which turns zombies into giants. It didn't go well on my first attempt, but now I know how to deal with that. So on my next attempt, I saved some more plant foods to spawn even more super magical shrooms. Everything worked just as I wanted, and all the zombies were destroyed with the help of a few gargantuars. Global cooling is the pits. What we need is a heat wave. I think it's a perfect time to break some more ice blocks. On day 7, we saved a few split peas from an ice shield, only to make them work on us. They are mine now. Also, the ice blocks are becoming a massive problem, so I was still searching for a perfect solution to let my shrooms keep fighting against the prehistoric zombies. The best combination I found was a duet of the spore shroom with a hypno shroom, as those guys perfectly balance each other. If the first 3 worlds were really easy, the Frostbite Caves finally gave me some serious obstacles for beating the levels. You know what? I really enjoyed it. Day 8 was already the 3rd conveyor belt level in this world, which is insane, considering it's not even a half of this time adventure. Anyway, let me tell you an interesting fact about the Frostbite Caves. Did you know that this world was released over 10 years ago? After saying that, I feel really old, as I was already playing PVZ2 when this world was released. I was 11 back then, and now I'm 21. On day 9, I once again spammed lots of scaredy shrooms only to deal against the introduced Dodo Rider zombie. For the price of 25 cents, you get an amazing shroom that can't disappear and deals heavy damage to all kinds of zombies. What else do you want to get from such a cheap guy? Day 10 was the conveyor belt level. Yes, another one. It's so funny now that I can't even seriously talk about it. Let's forget about the amount of conveyor belt levels in the Frostbite Caves. Day 11 wasn't beaten from the first attempt, because I thought that completing it with our regular mushrooms was possible. Unfortunately, it's not. The amount of zombies was crazy, and the cold winds didn't leave me a chance to place some more shrooms, so I had to use my secret weapon to complete one of the hardest levels of the Frostbite Caves. Here comes my fellow Ice Shroom. A guy that we knew from our previous challenge was pretty useful today, as he was the only hoop to complete the level with only mushrooms. Do I need to tell you how strong he actually is? Because it's one of the best shrooms in the game. He easily deals with the ice blocks and the rest of the zombies, but most importantly, he is immune to freezing. That's why the level was successfully completed. Day 12 was the first last stand level, which I decided to beat in so many different ways, but the final one included only 2 plants, the Wamperchini and the Ice Shroom. The first one played the role of the walnut, while the second one was the non-freezing main attacker. Everything went so smoothly that not a single shroom was consumed while beating it. Day 13 was also a hard one, as I couldn't lose a single lone mover because of the weird flowers. Without the help of the shadow and hypno shrooms, the level would probably be impossible, as they were the only working options against the tough zombies like bucketheads and the ice blocks. We also faced a gargantuar at the end of the level, but I counted everything perfectly and spawned my own one, which easily defeated the original Gark. Of course, I didn't complete it on the first attempt, because a lot of small details had to be counted while beating the level for the final time. I really enjoyed this hardness. Day 14 had to be beaten with pre-picked plants, so let me tell you an interesting detail about this world. Actually, the Dodo bird has no connection to permafrost or cold environments, as this bird used to inhabit only a tiny island near Madagascar, where summer is all year round, and it had never seen snow in its life. The dodo became extinct around 400 years ago because of the human impact and the docile nature of the animal. There are some more facts about this unique bird, which I'll tell you a bit later, so stay with me. Day 15 was a hard level because it was unbeatable without the help of the ice shroom. Not a single mushroom could survive such a low temperature combined with a cold wind and enormous herds of zombies, unless you are an ice shroom. Not even a gigantic flying bird could surprise him, so stay away from my friend. All the pepper pools were saved, and after finishing the last zombie, we received a tablet. Let's look at it. Penny, have you ever tried licking an icicle and got your tongue stuck to it? No, user Dave, I haven't. While your tongue heals, please note the strange stone tablet. It appears to be a warning sign written in Cave Zombie. Does it warn people not to lick the icicles? Wait a second, do they believe in a brain gut? Because we've got a crazy day for that? Day 16 was the middle milestone of this time adventure, so let me share some feelings about it. This time the Frostbite Caves became a pretty interesting and challenging world for me, as here I was able to create a ton of different strategies for the levels with some specific and hard rules. Just try to beat that world on your own and you will understand the way I think about it. Oh, and I'm really excited about our next time adventure, as this is an amazing challenge. On day 17, we had a great chance to play with fume shrooms. Some of them were covered in ice, while others were planted by me. Yet, it didn't stop my zombie friends from consuming delicious icy cobblestones. We also had to deal with the frozen imps, but they didn't pose any threat to us, and that's why I paid no attention to them. I wish these prehistoric zombies would just go back to their caves. User Dave, perhaps it's time to try a new tactic. Surprisingly, Day 18 was a conveyor belt level. It contained some of my favorite plants like bloomerang and stannian, but no mushrooms. However, it's a great chance to tell you even more interesting facts about the Dodo bird. Did you know that it's actually a giant pigeon? Yes, the Dodo bird is an amazing example of birds' evolutionary tendencies on isolated islands with plenty of food and resources. It took around 4 million years for them to turn from a small pigeon to a giant flightless bird. That's how it works. Thank you so much for your attention. On day 19, I had a limited amount of shrooms that I could pick on the level, so that's why I took some of the most reliable and cheap buddies with me. They did amazing work, as they managed to hold off the zombie attack and survive until the end to let the lone movers do their job. Day 20 contained lots of spores in the air, as it was the peak point of the spore shroom. Yet, not so many of them managed to survive the harsh climate of the Frostbite Caves, so that's why the Shadow Shroom did the rest of the work for it, as its plant food ability is able to destroy every zombie on the lawn. Day 21 was entirely dedicated to a fire pea shooter and his hot, flaming friends. You could think that I didn't prepare anything interesting for such a level, but I did. I've got some good news for you. My next challenge will be dedicated to fire plants, so wait for it. It's gonna be an epic time adventure with the same cool plants. On day 22, we have successfully tested our local nuclear weapon, which is called the Doom Shroom. Yet, don't forget that we are playing in the Frostbite Caves, meaning that some plants and mushrooms can be frozen, and the Doom Shroom is one of them. The frozen explosion looks like the Northern Lights, and we had a couple of situations with such explosions. If you worry about the whistles, remember that I have a Hypno Shroom with me, so they aren't a problem at all. On day 23, I was finally able to use my lovely toadstool, as none of the previous levels included such a great mushroom. Thanks to a few pre-planted sunflowers, we were able to produce even more sun, which doubled or even tripled the number of toadstools on the lawn. Always remember that the sticky tongues are a dangerous weapon against all kinds of zombies, especially tough one, as their buckets, helmets or ice cubes can protect them from being consumed by the toadstool. On day 24, I had to produce 2500 suns, but I didn't want to give up and use the sun shrooms, so I decided to take the toadstool once again. Yet, my genius strategy collapsed right after the first wave, so I had to come back to the main idea of using the sun shroom. Let's just say that it wasn't an easy level, and I put a lot of effort into beating it, because it included lots of 200 IQ moments. Here you can also see another epic moment of a frozen explosion. As you may see, I managed to beat the level without losing all the lone movers, which is a huge achievement in my situation. Penny, what we need right now is a nice hot cup of cocoa. I recommend we call on Rutabaga instead. Penny, don't be so boring. Cocoa is better than flame beet. As you may understood, day 25 was a conveyor belt level dedicated to a free copy of a starfruit. Let's just say that it was a good level because I really want to skip it. Day 26 was beaten pretty easily as my toadstools had no problems with consuming the ice cubes and the rest of the zombies. At one point, my poor froggy dude was frozen trying to reach one of the delicious zombies. What a shame, PopCap. Don't even try to let him go hungry. Day 27 was one of the most interesting levels of the STEM adventure, as I spent around 30 minutes trying to beat it, until I started using the Doom Shroom. The combination of it with a Spore Shroom allowed me not only to deal with zombies at a long distance, but also destroy those who came to Rutabagas planted on the banana cells. It was for sure one of the most epic battles we have seen in the Frostbite Caves. Day 28 was a conveyor belt level, which I decided to beat with some classical mushrooms and Wamperchini. Here is also a working tip for dealing with the frozen plants on the lawn, so you don't need to take any fire plants with you. And of course, here comes a great kaboom for a gargantuar right at the end of the level. Day 29 had to be beaten with some pre-picked plants for me, so I want to leave that level for my next challenge. It is going to contain a lot of fire. Penny, my taco? User Dave, ignore the taco, ignore the tones. It's time to fight Dr. Zombos. Unfortunately, they thought it didn't contain any mushrooms, so it was just a usual battle with Dr. Zombos that lasted only 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Well done, we have defeated Dr. Zombos and his attempt to make me question my taco. User Dave, our journey through time, you know that it's about more than just a taco. I suppose you are right, Penny, it is also about my fellow ice cubes. Anyway, the key is mine, which means that we are moving to the Lost City, another 32 levels, but this time with a great sound production and even more toadstools.